produced by Victoire.
Wrestling fashionistas, welcome back to another episode of Stylin' the Podcast. And what an episode we have for you today, because we have a special guest in the house. I'm one of your co-stars, the Master Emir, joined by my co-stars. First, at the bottom of the screen, you will see Pastor Andy.
Everybody, how are you?
And right next to Pastor Andy, the bodacious suave, Mr. Matthew Jacobs.
How's everyone doing?
Doing well. And at the top of our screen, right now, he's not on the set, but ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, please. He is a former WWE and AEW superstar. He is the stylist, Rico Costantino.
Oh boy. Hello, everybody. Hello. Sorry, I'm running behind a little, just doing a little training on the horses, cowboy mounted shooting, and just walked in from unsaddling my horse.
Well, it's a tough day on the ranch, as always, for you, my friend Rico. But I tell you what, so that you don't go tough on our audience, what do we require from them before we take one step further?
You need to smash that subscribe button, just like that. Hit the like, share it with your friends, and for those special few, hit the join button.
That's
You're
right.
going to get content that you would not believe that you do not get here.
Absolutely. You know, it's unbelievable. And here at Styling, it's always unbelievable, because today, Rico, we've got one of
Yeah.
your dear friends. We have a man who graced the WWF rings with his present back in one of the greatest periods of all time, the Ruthless Aggression era. Rico, you want to make the introduction?
Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce a very special man, a man of faith, a man of principle, straight shooter, work ethic, impeccable. I've worked with this man from OVW all the way up. This is Ron H2O Waterman.
Well, oh, thanks for that intro, buddy. It's been a while. It's so good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Ron.
And I want to put this in context. So the two of you have not seen each other for 23 years.
Nope.
So a lot has happened in
That's
23 years.
correct.
Oh, yeah.
Long time.
A lot has happened, but Rico, I want to let you lead us in here, because I want you to bring Ron into the conversation here and tell us a little bit about how the two of you met, where you were, and then of course Ron can go into his backstory there for our viewers.
Well, I was, like I said, the first one signed to developmental by WWF at the time, and people kept coming in, and Ron came in, ex MMA fighter, very good, and thank God he wore those gloves, because he threw them in a couple times. Well, I'm gonna ding. Oh wow! But he was everything else. He learned how to go from MMA to professional wrestling very rapidly. Positive spirit, always upbeat. I've never seen Ron get upset, and always did what Jim Cornette, Danny Davis asked, did shows, did appearances, and just a wonderful man to be around. Very positive energy.
Ron, if I may ask, what persuaded you to go from the UFC into WWF at the time?
WWF was always one of those childhood dreams I think that I had. Just like, man, I just wish I could have the opportunity to do that once. And
Oh, technical difficulties. Ladies and gentlemen, bear with us here. This happens. Of course, whenever we're trying to do something great, gentlemen, this always happens. You know, I won't say who's interfering, but I think we all know who is.
Yep.
So, but during Ron,
Ron, you froze. Come back and say it again.
all right,
WWF.
I was actually I was on a plane ride out to California to be in the very first UFC video game that they were producing at the time. And there's this guy sitting on the seat next to me, just starts talking to me, and he's like, "You know what? Have you ever thought about being a professional wrestler?" He goes, "I've got a good friend of mine. His name's Shane McMahon." And so we started talking some more, and I've told him that, that was always kind of a childhood dream of mine. And
It's okay. It's okay, viewers. We'll get through it. So we know now Shane McMahon. Interesting. That's a good friend to have, for sure.
Oh yeah.
sure enough, the next week he's got an interview for me with Jim Ross, I signed.
With who?
Jim Ross, I believe.
Oh wow,
I believe
JR. You got put in good. You got connected with the right people.
I tell you, it was all just like it was set up just exactly how it
Meant to be, it sounds like right there. We are experiencing some technical difficulties here, but hey,
could have been better. But it was
he's frozen again.
Ron, could you?
those giants are in there. Can you?
Well,
Can you hear-
Ron, can you turn off and come back on again? Because you're freezing, and you got a lot. That's important to say. It's a big piece of the puzzle, and you
Okay.
keep freezing.
Yeah, you guys are doing the same on my end. So
Oh boy,
you want me to try to log out, log back?
Yeah.
try that. Just log
Okay.
out, log back in.
Hey, this is
Okay.
good. This is good live TV right here. While we're waiting
Yeah.
right here, I guess we could go into a little bit of the impact that he made, Rico, because again, and then Matthew, you saw the Ron Waterman Jeff Hardy match this morning you were commenting on. I mean, this guy was he was a machine, a tank,
Yeah, it was.
and a subject we'll certainly get into was the similarity he had to Scott Steiner, right?
Yeah, they just he had. I think he had way more better talent, more better. That's not, um, but he can move better than Scott.
Yeah.
Scott couldn't move anymore by the time he got there.
Right.
Because I know I wrestled him a couple times,
Yeah.
and they were just going after Ron. Ron was better than Scott Steiner.
Mhm.
And I got to say that because he could move, he could do the moves, he could wrestle, he learned psychology. Scott was at that level from WCW that he didn't care. He went out there with the medal and this and that, and he'd already had a name, so they were piggybacking on that when
Mhm.
they could have had something new with Ron Waterman. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and Ron, can you hear us? You bet. Oh, his feed went off again. Hey, we'll try and keep it going. If worst case scenario, viewers out there, we'll reschedule for Ron to come back on if his feed can't stabilize, and we'll just continue on. But we'll give him a few more minutes here. But yeah, as you were saying, there he is. He's back. Ron, can you hear us now?
I can hear you. It was still cutting in and out a little bit, so hopefully it'll be better.
Yeah, hopefully. Rico.
Okay. Did you hear what I said, Ron?
I did
About-
a little bit
okay.
about Scott Steiner.
Yeah, I believe myself, you had more talent than Scott because Scott at that time couldn't really move, do wrestling moves. He was more a poser, showman. You had the moves. And it's my opinion that when he signed, that's why you got dropped. What do you think?
He's frozen again.
Oh.
He's frozen again. I think it's just a bad reception. We've got storms sweeping across the country right now. Pastor, what's it like where you're at?
Yeah, it's the same thing. We've had some pretty good weather coming through lately, different things, everything from earlier in the week snow to we've had a little bit of all of it.
That's where you're wearing that hoodie there. That looks like a nice winter hoodie you've got on right there.
It's been chilly this week. It sure has.
Yeah, it's been cold up in Canada too for Matthew. Matthew, you got snowed in, didn't you?
Yeah, I have that nice 15 centimeters there on Monday or Tuesday. So
wow.
Yeah, it's
the snow pick out there on the windows. I was like, already? I'm not ready for this. I'm still in shorts, man.
Gosh, Arizona's late for winter because I'm looking at 78.
Yeah.
I just went riding on trails. I'm in a short sleeve shirt, but this weekend, I think it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we're going to get hit with rain, possible snow.
Yeah.
So I think our extended summers is going to be cut short.
Yeah, similar here for us. Ron, we were just hypothesizing maybe it's the stormy weather somewhere in between you and us that's
Yeah, it
cutting you
could be.
off. But
All
Scott,
right.
Rico mentioned.
What was the last time? What's the last thing you heard, Ron?
You talked about me being a little bit better worker than Scott Steiner, which is a huge
Yeah,
compliment. Appreciate
you
that.
were a better worker, but because Scott was stiff back then, he had injuries and stuff, and back then you looked like Scott Steiner,
Yeah,
you
I got
know,
that a lot.
and that's why I feel they cut you, is because he signed and you couldn't have uh two Scott Steiners, you know, but you were a better worker. Because I know wrestled Scott a couple times on the big stage, you know, and he couldn't do a lot of what my character or what I would request from another wrestler, you know, to
Yeah.
do the back and forth. What do you feel about that?
I think you and I had more dark matches than I did with anybody. We had so
Yeah.
many, we had some good matches, I thought.
Did
Uh,
you ever cross paths with Scott, Ron?
I never did. I got a word from him one time saying that he didn't like it because I looked too much like him, so he wanted me to change my goatee or grow hair or whatever he wanted me to do. But he wasn't in the WWE with me when I was there, so
Yeah. How
didn't
big
really.
were you at that time? What was your weight?
I was about 295.
Damn,
Wow.
that's some serious size.
Every bit of muscle, may I
Ah,
add.
that's
That was
some,
the first time in my life that, you get paid to just train and work out all day long. So I was just going
Yep.
nuts. Rock and I would head to the gym every day and eating nonstop. And I mean, it's pretty cool to get paid to get in shape.
yeah. Now, were you a man of faith at that time, Ron?
You know what? I was a brand new believer, probably within 6 months of going into the WWE. So it was a really difficult time for me. I'm leaving my wife and my two young boys who are, not even teenagers yet. Um, I was told when I stepped into the office of uh, Jim Ross that day, he's like, you're going to get home, you'll be home all the time. He goes, you just come out to the shows, you fly right back home. And, but then I am out in OVW with all the guys, and I thought that would be a really quick process, but that's not a quick process. I mean, it
Nah.
was all of a year before you're at the level that you can get called up and actually work some dark matches. And it was hard
Yeah.
away from my family, from everyone at that time. As a brand new believer, I'm looking for people that, I can lean on a little bit with my faith. And, you're just so outnumbered. I have these grandiose plans that I'm going to go out there and share the gospel, and I'm going to do Bible studies after matches. And you're just so overwhelmed with everybody in that environment, and it can be a really dark environment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I felt myself
Yeah.
getting pulled into that more than I felt like I was pulling people into my space. So it was hard. It was a hard 2 years for me
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I was a year and a half, and that's because I tore my quad. Remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. And then they said I'd never wrestle again. I came back in 6 months and became a heel,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it's a year and a half, at least 2 year in the lower leagues.
Yep.
Ron, did you ever wrestle Power Pro or HWA?
I did HWA for a stint. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Corny had me do all three. And
Really?
at one time, he had me hold all three heavyweight titles.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but Ron's white because Ron White. Ron is right
Yeah.
because you're up in Louisville. My family was in Vegas.
Yep.
I had a wife at the time and two stepchildren, you know, and you're gone a month, 2 months. before,
At least.
they give you a week off to go
Yeah.
back to your family, and then you go right back into that rat race. Because we were practicing 5 days a week, six.
Oh, at least, yeah. And
Yeah.
twice a day most of
a-
the time. Yeah.
Yeah. We had 2 days. We had St. Teresa. We had television. And if you were doing any other territory, you
Then
had to
house
go to
shows.
that territory
Yeah.
on
Wow.
top of that. And I know, uh, God, I keep forgetting his name, was in charge of Power Pro. Uh, he was from WCW. He used to do mults, and he was an announcer. He was a color commentator on Velocity or Heat. Velocity, I think it was.
Velocity?
What was that big guy's name, Ron?
I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of it either.
Oh,
Uh,
Hugh Morris?
Oh yeah, Hugh Morris.
Bill
Yeah.
DeMott.
Yeah.
Bill
Huh?
DeMott.
Bill DeMott. That's who it was. Every time I get on camera, my mind goes blank. Bill was great, because I had to go down there and practice with Bill and stuff like that, and he was always positive.
Hmm.
And HWA, Les Thatcher,
Yep.
you know, and Bobby Bradley at that time before he passed. That's who I won the title from. Is Bobby.
Yeah. Those were all good guys.
Ron,
Yeah.
I got to ask you because coming back to the faith thing, being a new believer in that crowd, in that sea of guys, how did you hang on? I mean, obviously we know that the Lord pulled you through it, but did you practice anything yourself to make sure you stayed grounded?
I tried to get tied into a church when I was out there in Louisville. So I was going every Sunday, but um, we're our time was pretty wrapped up. I mean, we didn't have a lot of free time, so it was pretty much on my own. I would make calls back home to some of my Christian buddies, and they would kind of keep me in check a lot of times, but it was a struggle. Another person that was with us at the time was Sylvester Turkey, a great man of faith. So I would go to church
Yep.
with Sylvester sometimes, and he was somebody that I could lean on a lot. And then Rico, who probably gave me some of the best advice I've ever gotten in my entire life, I knew was with the power team. So uh, I was super inquisitive about that, especially when I was getting towards the end of my contract and got released. And I was like, my first call was to Rico. And I'm like, Rico, you gotta help me out with these guys. This is something I'd be super interested in pursuing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'll give you a number to a guy that I want you to call with Team Impact. And made the call, and they flew me out. And I've been traveling. I still travel with them probably 3 or 4 times a year. It's still going to do crusades all over the world, but it literally changed my life.
That is incredible. It's an incredible success story to hear because,
So,
again, because you had faith. A lot of the guys, when they don't make it and they don't have faith, they have tendency to fall apart. I mean, we've seen it so many times. So for you, it was just you had that understanding. So when you were released, was it? I mean, I'm sure it was, of course, sad, of course, but was it? I mean, how did you feel when that moment hit?
it was hard. I think a lot of times, we wrap ourselves up and it's our identity, and I felt like that I was a time that was my identity. I was a professional wrestler, and all of a sudden when that's stripped from you, you feel like a failure. You feel like, what didn't I do? What could I have done better to make this work?
Mhm.
But sitting where I'm sitting now and looking back at this, this was all God's plan, and
Yeah.
He put me on that platform for a while to give me a platform to speak from, and that and mixed martial arts. And for the next 25 years, I traveled all around the entire world,
Yeah.
got to share the gospel, and it,
Yeah.
it seems perfect now when I'm looking back at it. But at the time, I mean, it was tough when you get that pink slip and you're
Yeah.
like, all the questions were running through your mind, like, was I not good enough? What didn't I do? What could I have done better? And all that stuff
Yeah.
comes to play.
Well, Pastor, I want to bring you in here now because now here's the man who knows a lot about sharing the gospel. And of course, Pastor, you when Ron mentioned their traveling around the world and everything else, it reminded me of our dear friend Lodi from WCW. So Pastor, what do you think? How important is it for us to realize that when we're given that public platform, it's important to use it for good. And I want you to kind of put an exclamation point on that, Pastor. I'm going to throw it to you.
Absolutely. You know, anytime we've got a bigger opportunity to reach people, then we need to, because our visible witness is so much more powerful than our verbal. Because when we can live out our faith, you know, in the public eye is amazing. And it's unreal how I was listening to that account, and it reminded me a lot about how God uses so many different things to bring us to where we need to be. You know, because when I was in law enforcement, I was moonlighting in wrestling. I mean, that was kind of my side gimmick. You know, I was never anybody, but you know, I got to do it, and that's kind of my claim on that. But the thing is, at this one event that we were doing, um, unbeknownst to me. So I'm performing that night, but I'm also promoting the show. All
Mhm.
right. After the show, one of my guys who was running the door for me came back and said, "Hey, there's this guy here that wants to talk to the promoter." Well, nobody knew that it was me because I wore a hood when I was working, so I always tried to keep those two things separate. And so I got undone, and I go back out and I said, "Well, who?" And so this guy came up to me, and he was a local pastor.
Mm.
I didn't know who he was. I had no clue. And again, I wasn't anti-church or anything, but it wasn't in my schedule at that very moment. It just wasn't. And he said, "Hey, I just wanted to commend you on a great show. We had a lot of fun tonight. It was, family friendly, like back in the old days. And we had a ton of people there, and it was just a lot of fun." And I said, "Well, thank you, I appreciate it." He said, "Well, I'd like to invite you to an event at my church." I'm like, "Oh, here we go." And so I knew there was some catch. But anyhow, I listened and I said, "Thank you." Well, and he said, "Well, you got a card or anything?" And I did. So I gave him my card, but I didn't think anything more about it. He
Mhm.
kept sending me this information because he was like, "We'd love for you to come to this men's event and this and that." And then I got another letter. He says, "Well, we'd really love to come. Maybe you would enjoy the speaker, Ted DiBiase."
Oh boy.
There you go.
I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. Well, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm sort of kind of technically in the business. And I said, well, yeah, it would be fun to meet Ted. Never met Ted. I had met tons of other people. And but I said, well, yeah, it would be fun. So anyhow, I agreed to go. And what I didn't know is they had it all. It was a setup, man. I mean, it was a work. They got me there, and I'm sitting at the table with Ted, and we're talking about wrestling and my law enforcement and all this different stuff like that. And then Ted turned to me and he said, "Andy," he said, "all this is great, man." He said, "But I'd really like to ask you another question." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Are you saved?"
Mm.
And I'll be honest with you guys, I had no idea what he was talking about because I'd never heard that terminology before.
Mhm.
And I said, "From what?" I didn't. I honestly didn't know what he was because I mean, at the time, I'm 6'3", 270 pounds.
Mhm.
And I didn't. I'm thinking saved like I'm in danger or something, which not realizing now really was for me. And so
Yeah.
anyhow, long story short, ended up Ted leading me to the Lord that night.
Mhm.
Oh,
It was that it was that moment that I look back, okay, that God used my dream of being a wrestler. That was my little kid's dream from 1974. I mean, that's what I wanted to do so bad. And he used that to open a door to bring me to him.
Mhm.
After that, I actually ended up traveling with Ted some. We did shows all over the place and at churches and different things. And one thing led to the other. And then until finally God called me out of law enforcement into ministry. And I've been doing it this coming February, will be 25 years. And so yeah, it's awesome how it all works out. But yes, use your platform to let people know who you really are.
That's the key right there, is letting them know who you are, regardless of the outcome. Some people may like it, some people may not like it, but at the end of the day, we gotta, we're here to. Our time is short, so I'm finding out with each day that goes by, and But speaking of that, actually, Ron, I wanted to ask you. 'Cause you mentioned you had teenage kids, so when you got into the WWF training program, development program rather, how old were you at the time?
Geez, I think I was 34.
Okay. All right. So Rico, not too far behind you.
no,
You're
I was 38 and a half, almost 39.
Yeah. It's interesting because we talk often about this now, especially, Matthew and I, we talk almost daily about because I'm doing the independent circuits out here in California. And but we're seeing now on the main platform on WWE and that most of the guys now are in their mid 40s or even 50 now like CM Punk and Chris Jericho. So the times have changed. It seems like only the older demographic are the ones that are still really hanging, as opposed to the younger up and coming guys. But we could hypothesize the reasons why. I have my opinions, but I'm not going to share them on this very positive episode.
What's Suave think about that?
Oh, don't get him started. Don't get him started.
Not tonight. I'm not.
I gotta hit that button.
Yeah. No, I have some questions for Mr. Waterman here. I'm curious to know because Rico, he claims to be this tough, MMA guy, but you with an UFC background and all that, did you find the transition somewhat easy or easy to adapt once you went to the WWF side?
I think it was easy to adapt with the workload. Like I was used to working hard. I had a great work ethic from being a college wrestler and training to be a mixed martial artist. I mean, I knew how to work hard. So that part came easy, but actually learning how to become a professional wrestler I thought it would be just a piece of cake, no big deal. But learning how to sell and learning how to, tell a story out there and remembering spots. And there was just it was so much more complex than I had realized or I even had a clue that what I was getting into. That I was pretty overwhelmed, especially at the beginning. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is a lot. And it's almost like, I didn't have any acting skills, but you learn real fast, I think I
Especially
probably
with Cornette and Danny Davis.
exactly. Yeah.
Matthew, you got anything else that you were thinking about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's go. You said you're good friends with Brock Lesnar. Did you guys ever just kind of like shoot wrestle?
We did. We had another guy out there with us named Brian Keck, and we were all, and Shelton Benjamin also. We were all college wrestlers, so we would go find mats on the weekends, and we would all go out and just wrestle each other. And I'll tell you, I did real well against actually wrestled Brian Keck in the Olympic trials and beat him. But with Brock, he's probably one of the only guys I've ever wrestled that could just take me down at will. I mean, it was not even funny. I mean, that dude was just so strong and powerful and fast, and I couldn't stop him.
He was a beast.
Yeah,
Still is.
still is.
Yeah, but I mean, my gosh, I wrestled many times, and it was one match that I remember. It was H2O Brock against myself and Randy Orton. We were the four that called up, and then they put us a tag team against us. Not
Yep.
Randy and Brock or me and Waterman, which is, this
Yeah.
and this. They put the two big guys against the two little guys. Do you remember that match?
Yeah, but I think they still had you go over on us, so
We went over.
you
Yeah,
still got to win.
Yeah, because I did that in-ring over the top rope splash on Brock, and then Randy got you.
Yep.
Yeah, and the crowd was just, what? We
I
had
thought
these
we got
two
some pretty good pops out there for being.
behemoths, But see, I remember that match. I've seen it several times, and I remember that match like it was yesterday. Ron could sell.
Mm-hmm.
He sold my kicks. He sold the jump. It's a guri. He gave as much as he gave. He took and gave.
Mm-hmm.
There was evenness about him.
Yeah.
To make us look good. Because I mean, just on sight and a real fight, Randy and I would have been toast.
Well,
Toast.
yeah. Well, we talk a lot about that, like selling. It's such an important thing. As wrestling has evolved, Ron, I know you don't follow it anymore, but as it's evolved more so now, I think they've adopted a lot more of the lucha libre style now. The guys it's a lot faster. I don't know. Rico, I mean Matthew,
It's all
Pastor.
moves.
Yeah,
It's just one move to the next move. You don't get a chance to sell.
no.
And Jim Ross said this to me once. I gave somebody 10 punches in the corner, and then they came out and they didn't sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And they took back over, the advantage. And Jim Ross even said it on TV. How could somebody take 10 punches in the corner and come out on top?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was his displeasure on however that match was set up.
Yeah.
You take 10 punches, you're holding the head by the hair, and you're ramming this guy 10 times with your fist. How's he going to come out with his brains intact?
Not,
Makes no sense.
yeah, not really. Matthew, I know you've been stewing again, or even past. Actually, you know what? Matthew, I've given you a moment. We'll come back
Yeah,
to you.
yeah.
Pastor, you got any thoughts, any questions you want to pose to Ron?
Well, yeah, he's right. That transition, I know, breaking in, depending on who's done it, but if you were around guys like Cornette and Les Thatcher and those guys, they really knew the art, and so yeah, breaking in, they weren't gonna be easy on you. I know the old guys that broke me in. That was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. I mean, it was so I'm sure you remember that. Look back on it now and realize it was a lot different than just watching it on TV, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yep.
We had guys like Bobby Eaton that came in and worked with us, and he was just
Yep.
a great guy and could just relate to the workers so much. And he was one that I felt like helped me really progress in my game was him just because he could relate and easy to
And
talk.
he even did matches. Not
Yeah.
only was it coach, he went in, I went against Bobby Eaton,
Yeah.
and
I wrestled him in the gardens. Yeah.
yeah.
He-
So he put his money where his mouth was.
Yeah.
Bobby, Bobby was probably, and maybe he never will get the credit he deserved, but he was one of the best. He was one of the smoothest guys. I mean, just and one of the nicest guys. Look
And
for
one of the nicest
like
guys. Yeah.
like had
Oh yeah.
no character, none
Kind
of
soul.
Bobby was the real deal. He was a good guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it sounds, I mean, I know, Pastor, you've told me so much about some of these legends that you
Ah,
discuss. I mean, gosh, when I think back there, of course, Ron, Matthew and I grew up around about the same time watching. So we would have been what, a couple generations behind you at least. So back in late '90s. But I mean, all those guys you talk about, and Rico, the guys that you're talking about, I mean, it just brings back so many great memories. For you though, Ron, when you were a fan of wrestling before you got there, who was it or what match was it that really drew you in?
You mean once I started to wrestle?
Before to
Oh,
get you
before.
interested as a fan.
I was always a big fan of Hulk Hogan, like most little kids were. Grew up watching him and got to watch him in Denver one time when, as a kid, went to one of the matches, and it just seemed like it was, he was a superhero and a Marvel character, and to actually get to see him backstage for the first time was unreal.
Yeah.
And of course, that was the time that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is starting to get a lot of popularity, and to actually be in the back room warming up with those guys was pretty surreal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, tremendous time to come into the business for sure. Um, but I want to talk a little bit about UFC as well because you did that too. I mean, totally different. Now I mean, again, professional wrestling does hurt, but it is, you know what you're getting into, and you should come out unhurt by your opponent. But UFC is a totally different story altogether. So
Yeah.
now, what was it that triggered you to go and do that? What triggered you into that world?
So I
Combat
was a college wrestler, and about that time is when the wrestlers were just dominating the UFC. You guys had like Mark Coleman and Dan Severn, um, and they were just dominating the sport. So I was a high school art teacher and a wrestling coach right out of college.
Okay.
So my wrestling team one night after practice challenges me to go to this local mixed martial arts competition in Denver,
Mhm.
about 3 months out. So I just took them up on the challenge, started training for it. It's called the Boss Fruit Invitational.
Okay.
3 fights in one night. And I had no stand-up skills at all, just pure wrestler. So I entered this tournament and walked through all three guys in like 20 seconds each. It was pretty much a joke. But the official that night was John Peretti, who was the matchmaker for the UFC. So after I
Yeah.
won the tournament that night, won a big $500 for 3 fights, they offered me a contract to go to the next UFC. So fly me out to my first UFC and UFC 20,
Hmm.
and I had an opponent that I beat in 28 seconds again, and my mixed martial arts career just kind of exploded at the time. So
Yeah.
I just came in at a really good time that, big, strong wrestlers could dominate in the sport. It was still back there when you could headbutt opponents. There weren't weight classes, and I had some 500 pounders that I was fighting against, uh, and
How do you
just
get around a 500 pounder?
you don't
Because
get
you're not going to
underneath
put your arms around him.
them. You wear them out
That's right. That's right. Keep going.
because they don't have a lot of stamina. Yeah,
Yeah,
No.
man. Now, when you were doing the UFC, yeah, that was prior to WWF, correct?
it
Yes,
Oh,
was,
yeah.
it was prior.
but
So,
only a couple years of it. And because they were flying me out, like I said, to do that, uh, to be in the first video game, they were going to take me out to California and put these electrodes all over me, and I met the guy that got me the invitation to go to the WWE on the plane that day, and
and that was he was friends with Shane, right? Shane
he was
McMahon.
friends with Shane, yeah, and ended
So,
up working for
did
him.
you end up drumming up a friendship with Shane yourself?
I did. Shane was always one of the guys that I think he loved mixed martial arts. So before matches and stuff, he would always be picking my brain on different moves that we could do and wanted me to show him stuff all the time. So we'd be in the ring before matches. And I'd be
Uh,
showing him all kinds of
Did
mixed
you ever
martial
get
arts
in the
moves.
ring with The Undertaker?
I did. He asked me lots of
Yeah,
questions too.
because he's an MMA guy.
Yeah, he loved it.
I know.
uh, Matthew? I want to bring you back in now, Mr. Inquisitive down there. Matthew, you got anything else for Ron?
Yeah, I'm just curious if you know, you look like a very cool, good guy, but I don't know back then if you had like a big ego or something, which is fine, but you're a legitimate tough guy in UFC and you can pretty much wallop anybody you want. Then you're going into, wrestling and you got to let this guy beat you. Did it ever just get to your head? You're like, oh, wait a minute. I can like kill this guy if I want, and I have to let him
Like
I have to
me.
put him over? Like, what
like
is this
Rico.
garbage?
Yeah, he can
Like,
kill
was
somebody
that
like
ever?
me.
Yeah, was there ever just like that mental, like, man, what is this? Like, I'm this hard ass tough guy, and now I gotta look like I'm weak on television. Like, did that kind of
Right.
play with your head a little bit at all?
I was always able to differentiate the two sports, and I knew what I was getting into, and I'm one of those people that's pretty low key and mellow, and I'm not going to go boast about myself to anyone, or you shouldn't have to tell anyone how tough you are,
Right.
And I was just never one of those people that felt like I needed to prove myself to anybody. I would just work hard and be kind, and it's just the way God made me.
Mm-hmm.
I second that. I was a
Amen.
witness.
I
Amen.
appreciate that, buddy.
Yep.
Amen.
And
Did you ever work much with or do anything with Shamrock? Because he was in the wrestling business before he went to the UFC as Vince Torelli. I remember when he very first started back in the Carolinas. There was a little territory called South Atlantic Pro Wrestling, and then they did the national NAWA. And he was with Paul Jones and all the old timers, Ricky Steamboat and all those guys when he very first started as a young guy, and he called himself Vince Torelli. But then later he started using his real name in UFC. Did you ever do much with Ken?
Rico and I came into WWE shortly after he had left and was out, but I never fought him in any competitions, but he was at most of my UFC fights and saw him in Japan quite a few times. And I was actually on the same card as his brother, Frank Shamrock, quite a few times as well.
He's
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the few that was in the wrestling business first, and then he transitioned over. So yeah, he was neat. I remember meeting him just when he was a young, very young guy. So
Yep.
There was another guy I've had on the show here, Mariano. What's his last name? I can't remember at the top of my head right now, but I've had him on this show too. He would have been in the early UFC days as well. He's a very formidable guy, very nice guy now. He's a man of faith too. God, what is his name? Someone else take over for me while I got his name because I had him on the show and he was such a nice guy. I think you and he would get along, Ron. Mariano. Rico, take over for me.
All right, Ron, I got to ask you about an incident when all four of us are traveling. Remember Brock, you, me, and Orton?
Yep.
And we went into this Waffle House somewhere down south. Do you remember that?
I think I do.
Okay. We're all four at the table, and Randy is in his feisty mood, ribbing. He wants to rib. So he starts ribbing the waitress. And I told Randy, I said, listen, rib her after I get my food because I don't want to get my food spit in. You deserve the food get spit in. And as I remember it, tell me if I'm wrong. Um, he ribbed her, and she went back crying. And then a guy got up from the bar and left, and the cook came up and he goes, "Oh, you all better go. That was her brother. He's going to get a shotgun." And all four of us left that Waffle House. Now, do you remember it that way?
I think it was pretty similar to that, Rico. I remember
Tell me.
I remember
Tell me.
Randy ordered 12 white egg whites, dozen egg whites, though. It was some ridiculous thing that he always ordered at Waffle House. But yeah, some crazy times. When you have Brock and Randy both with you, you know something's about to happen because
Oh yeah.
Brock was just not a people person. You know, you'd have a little old lady come up to him that's just sweet as could be, and you just look at her like, "What are you looking at?" And little kids would be walking up to him like, "Man, how do you get so big?" And he would just come up with something stupid like, "Oh, you got to eat 12 Snicker bars every day, and that'll do it." You know?
Kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. How do
Yeah.
you get so big? Beer.
Yeah.
He'd say beer. But I mean, I remember leaving that Waffle House because we were all four in one car, and I was like, "Oh my God, Randy!" But he was just playing. He wasn't malicious. He was just being Randy at
Plus,
that
he's only
age.
like 18 years old at the time, so
Yeah,
Right, right,
very
right.
19,
mature.
20 years old.
Yeah.
So and he came from three generations of
Yeah.
wrestlers, so that was his way of having fun, ribbing people. But it's like I said, Ron and I are sitting there and like,
Yeah.
we better go. Me being prior law enforcement,
Yeah.
it's time to leave here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Now, but you mentioned one thing. You mentioned your size there when you were talking about Brock. It made me think of you. 270. That's not You're how tall are you, Ron?
6'2".
4'3".
Six. No, 290. You were right. 290 at your biggest.
295 biggest.
295. Obviously, you've slimmed down since that time. Do you feel better, healthier being smaller, or did you like being that size? Was it good for you?
I think everybody likes being big, and I was super lean at the time too, just because we were working out and training all day long every day. But obviously, at my age now, I'm walking around about 265 now, and I feel much better. I mean, at 295, I don't care how good a shape you're in. When you're running ropes out there, I mean, you with that much muscle mass, you just oxygen can't supply you that
No.
that fast for
No.
that long. So you would get gassed hard out there. And that was always my thing because I was such a hard worker that I wanted to push myself super hard. But
Yeah.
you're in the ring wrestling for 15, 20 minutes and you're gassed pretty good.
Yep.
Now, were you? Oh, sorry,
Go
Rico.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go.
I
It's
was
for
gonna
Ron.
say. I was gonna say, Ron, were you always a big guy, or did you have to really work hard to develop that physique?
I wrestled in college at about 245.
Okay.
And then as I started training, I was, Mr. Colorado bodybuilding champion. So just slowly put on weight through the years. But when I got to WWE, I was right around 280, 290 and put on a little bit more just when I was working out nonstop.
Yeah. Gosh.
But it's
Yeah,
hard to
because
carry
it's
that much
easy.
weight.
It's easy. Go ahead, Suave.
So I love like gym, and I'm trying to get as big as possible, but this is the best I can do. But how much were you benching off your chest back in the day?
550.
Oh, come on.
I don't know. That's a lot of weight. I hear my shoulder joints screaming right now just thinking of that, Ron. Uh,
You know, it was amazing. Brock and I would go to the gym together because he was one of the only guys that I could train with that would keep that pace. But Brock would jump up on the pull-up bar back then and do 40 pull-ups unassisted, and it was
wow.
just
Uh,
unbelievable. A guy that was 300 pounds
this way or that way?
out wide, yeah,
Out
Wide.
wide 40?
perfect
Oh my
form. Yeah.
gosh.
And you know his athletic ability. I mean, the dude could stand in place and do a standing backflip at 300
Yep.
pounds. Just
Wow.
Yeah. He was gifted.
freaky.
I agree. Gifted, but I'm so glad he learned how to work
Right.
because because if my gosh, and you did, it's just that, somebody that big doesn't know their own strength and inadvertently, not intentionally, could hurt you.
Mhm.
I remember in our match, like I said, Randy and I and Brock and you, I jumped off the top rope and Brock caught me, flipped me over his shoulder, and then gave me a power slam.
Uh,
I didn't feel a thing. Didn't feel nothing. Felt the mat, but not
Yeah.
his weight, which
mhm.
was almost 300 pounds, but he was solid. I mean, I was 238, 240, but I looked small compared to those two. And
Yeah.
I came off the top rope and he just held his arms out for a splash and he just caught me. Didn't even budge. Boink. And
Wow.
then just went, hiya, flipped me over like I was a toothpick. And then he ran 1, 2, 3, power slam,
Yeah.
but he learned work, thank God.
You know,
Yeah.
another strong guy that was with us down Rico was Mark Henry. I'll never forget
Oh,
my first
oh,
week of training at OVW. I walk into the place and hardly knew anybody. And Mark Henry's up in the ring, and we're all kind of standing around. And he looks down at me. He goes, "All right, shooter, come on up here and show me what you got." I don't know if you remember that or not. So I'm like, "Oh shit." I get up, I walk up into the ring, and so he pretty much calls me out in front of all the guys. You know, they're all gathered around watching, and
on the OVW set.
yeah. And probably about, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds later, I had him in a rear naked choke, and he's tapping out, and that's pretty much all it took to win the respect of all the boys in the room. But what a strong
Was
dude!
it was it Rip Rogers, your coach?
Rip was one of
He
our
was one of them.
Yep, him and Danny Davis.
Yep, Danny Davis, and then all Danny's crew: Rob
Yep,
Conway, Nick Dinsmore, Damaja, Doug Basham. Um, I'm forgetting one. Flash Flanagan.
Flash. Yep.
Gosh.
Yeah, those were the core guys that Danny, like I've said before, instructed to get us ready to be called up.
Mhm.
That was their orders, and they did just that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird dynamic down there because you had all your local workers that had been working in OVW for years that were great workers. And then you had
Yeah.
developmental talent that would come in there, and we're making all this money, on our developmental contracts. And so it was very humbling, I'm sure, for those guys to work with us. We're making all this money and don't know anything about professional wrestling, and we're the ones that are getting paid to be there.
But you were treated with respect. Like that's one thing. You said there was a lot of respect, so there wasn't too much jealousy. Thank God for that. Re-
No,
re-
absolutely.
recently, we were looking at the news. In fact, there was some wrestlers from NXT, which I guess is the equivalent now, somewhat of OVW televised, but they were saying that they're only making 30,000 a year today in NXT. So was it, I mean, you don't have to spill numbers here, but did you guys have a wage that was, livable for everything that you needed back then when you were in OVW?
I was a high school teacher coming into OVW, and I was making way more in OVW on a developmental contract than I was as a teacher. So
Okay.
it was good money for me. It was more than you just said, and that was 25 years ago. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was the opposite for me.
Mhm.
I took a big pay cut
yeah, I'll bet.
and I had to rely on savings and my late brother to help make ends meet
Mhm.
on this developmental.
Mhm.
and but it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a stone cold. I never reached that status, but I reached a respectable status
Oh, you
when I
did,
got called
Rico.
up.
You did,
you
Rico.
know,
Yeah, for sure.
and Ron, I don't know if you know this, but after my rookie contract, I asked Vince for a raise after winning the tag titles twice
Yeah.
and doing two characters, and he told me no.
Mhm.
Unbelievable.
I said, all I want is $1,000 a week.
Yeah.
That's it. 1,000 a week on my next contract for a minimum. He said, no, you're not that popular. I said, I'm about to be on the cover of the WWE magazine. I've won the tag titles twice, and you're telling me no.
Yeah.
He says, yeah. I said, well, I got 90 days. It's November 5th. You got till February, I think it was 2nd. And I said, you don't sign, I quit.
Yeah.
And he didn't sign. The
Jeez.
next day I was in Japan. And that first night I won the Asian tag titles with Bull Buchanan.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll never forget driving to one of the house shows in OVW with John Cena, and he was telling me how much he was making for his developmental contract, and Brock and I were on pretty similar contracts at the time, and I said, that's unreal because Cena, you knew, was going to be a star from the beginning. That dude has the gift of gab, man. He could talk like
Yep.
no other. And so I was pretty good friends with the secretary up there at WWE at the time. So I made a call to her and ended up getting him a raise. So I'm just wondering if he still remembers that today and remembers that he can give back a little bit if he wants to.
I haven't heard from John since I left.
I haven't either. He's mentioned me in a couple interviews, but I haven't talked to him since.
I've talked to John's father on Kenny Boland's show.
Right?
Remember,
Yeah, that's right.
remember the round mound of sound?
Uh-huh.
Well, I think maybe you guys may actually hear from him again because now when he's winding down his career now, it's like, I often hear once you get going, I mean, Rico, you've told me, once you get going on that hamster wheel, you got hardly any time for anything else.
That's right.
So John has been cranking this for, I mean, between that and movies, what now, 25 years going
Yeah.
on? So,
And all his charity work, support for the military.
Yep,
He's just given. He's got,
mhm,
but he's also given back,
that's right.
yeah. So,
and,
I love that.
I loved working with John. He was a professional. He always showed up to work. We, when he came in as my prototype with Bowling Services, oh, we had a blast. Oh
Yeah,
my
sure.
well,
God.
I
And
tell
it
you,
would just come natural.
I'll tell you what, as old Vinnie Mac, Vince McMahon would say, you never say never in the World Wrestling Federation, as he would say. But you know what? You never say never because if John's last match is coming up in December and they're going to pull out all the bells and whistles, maybe the two of you will get an invite for that last show.
That would be pretty
Just saying.
cool.
Just saying. Maybe they'll hear about it. But so you've already told, yeah, your opinion of John Cena, top guy. Ron, I'm not sure if you followed what's going on with him. They just made him Intercontinental Champion. He's got his final match. What is it, Matthew? December the 13th? December
Correct.
13th. It's a SmackDown, right?
No, I think it's a Saturday night main event.
Oh,
Main event.
Saturday night's main event. So they don't know who the final opponent's going to be. Apparently, there's going to be a tournament going on. Some guys from other companies are going to be involved, so you never know who's going to be the final match. But if you were the booker, Ron, if you were the man making the call, excluding yourself, you can't put yourself in this. But if who would you think would be a good final opponent to seal the end of the career for John Cena?
Well, I had heard that that was the only reason that Brock came back was that he wanted to finish up with Brock. So
You reckon Brock?
I would love to see I would love to see Brock put him over.
Okay. All right. Rico, I'll pose the same question to you.
I agree with Ron.
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I agree.
Finish together.
And I think, I don't know if I don't think he won any tag team titles, but I think he's won all the single titles.
Mhm.
And now he's got everything complete. That's a great trophy wall right there.
Yep. Matthew. And if you were Vinnie Mac, if you were Vince back in the day, or dare I say Triple H today, who would you book as the final opponent for John Cena?
Why not put Vinnie Mac?
Of course, you'd have to say that.
The man
Mr.
who
Rico.
created him, right? Say, I own you, I'll destroy you.
Pastor Andy, who would you say down there?
Well, I think it's like those guys said. Probably the one that makes the most sense is Brock because they've just had such a long deal. I think it either has to be somebody like that with a really known name, or whoever they think is going to be the hottest guy that's going to take it on, and then Cena put him over and kind of pass the torch. It's got to be one of those two things.
Yeah,
In between really won't work.
yeah.
Well, any Max days, I'd say the torch would be passed. Nowadays, with what's going on and what we've talked about the last few weeks, uh, I don't think creative has the hold on it. You
Mhm.
know, I don't think they're gonna adhere to old school rules.
Mhm. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
changed. It's changed a lot, Ron, since back in the day.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but Ron, have you got any closing statements for us as we bring this to a close here?
I just appreciate the journey and the different chapters of my life. It's been an amazing ride, and I've been so blessed to be able to live the life that I have. I mean, got it so nice. I live out in Colorado now on 10 acres, and Rico, like you've got some horses on our little ranch, and it's just been such a blessing, and getting to still share the gospel all the time. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, it's so cool to just kind of step back and see what we're really here for. And um, God's made it very clear in my life that, He gave me that platform for a short time, just so I could share how good God is in our lives and how much we all need Him.
Well,
amen.
amen. You've certainly inspired me just having you on here. Oftentimes, we do get pulled. I'm working on the indie circuit, and sometimes I get pulled this way and that. It feels like, but I often remember, Rico knows we started this because we wanted to be a positive influence in the world. We wanted to lead people to
Amen.
the gospel, to Christ, and just having you on here has inspired me. It's reminded me of that today. So I want to thank you for being here. I also want to know that I'll put your contact information in the description of this video. So if anybody wants to follow Ron Waterman on Instagram, get in contact. I'll put that the description. Have you got a website or anything, Ron?
I do, yeah. RonWaterman.com. And
Okay.
then just at Ron Waterman is my Instagram page. But yeah, I would love to anybody that writes me. I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Tapped Out by Jesus from the Cage to the Cross. And if you'd like to get one of those, I would sign it for you and send it to you as well. So
All right. Well, we'll
Oh,
put that in the description. Rico.
I got one more question for Ron. Ron, who gave you the name H2O Waterman?
my wife did, if you want to believe that.
Of course, I believe it. It's coming
Yeah.
from you.
That's cool. Well, Rico, it's been a blast. Ron has been everything that you said he is and more. It's been an encouragement. Like I said, it's been great to hear some of the stories. Rico, before we close out, by the way, Matthew, Pastor, anything you want to add here before we close it?
Great show. Oh, did really, much like you said, very, very nice to meet you, and just and appreciate what you're doing and sharing the gospel. And just that's what every one of us has the opportunity to do in our
Amen.
own ways. And I'm like you. Every opportunity that has come, it's been a blessing. It really has. And as we get older, I think we appreciate it a little bit more.
Mhm.
For sure.
Matthew, any last closing comment?
You're a good dude, man. You're real, authentic, and pleasure to meet you, man.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate all of you. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless. Enrico, our closing statement from you before we end here.
My philosophy, as always, what the mind can conceive, the heart can achieve.
Amen. Amen,
Amen.
indeed. And we want to thank each and every one of you, and I want to give glory to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Yeshua, for giving us this time to be a blessing, and for Ron for blessing us here. And we want to encourage you, if you feel so inclined, to smash that subscribe button and join and become a member. And we want to thank you until next week, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Stylin', the podcast. God bless.
God
God
bless.
Yes.
Fans, the time has come for you to flex your appreciation in style. The Masters of Wrestling delivers the most truthful pro wrestling content week in, week out. And now we want you to show your support wherever you go. Power and Glory, the podcast t-shirts. Order yours now. Styling, the podcast t-shirts. Order yours now. To order your t-shirt and for shipping information, use the email address in the description of this video.